everybody, this is Al Nash from the Unapologetic Woman Empowerment Dynasty, and you're listening to the Unapologetic Woman Podcast, the show for women who love to live their legacies, unleashed, unlimited, and unapologetic. If this is a space you are curious about, visit unapologetic-woman.com. Today, we're talking about being easeful with Megan Edwards. A dedicated yogi, business owner, and devotee of lifelong learning, Megan is a qualified yoga and meditation teacher, energy healer, and member of the International Yoga Alliance. Born and bred in Melbourne, Australia, she is mum to a super sporty teen and yogi in training, and stepmom to 2 more little chickadees who at this stage love their Lego more than yoga. When Megan's not on the mat, you'll find her coaching corporates, individuals, and business owners on LinkedIn and content marketing. She has over 25 years of experience in marketing communications. And when there's time to spare, she travels the countryside with her partner and family in their beloved RV, Ballena, which is Spanish for whale. Thanks so much for joining us. This is Megan Edwards.
Okay.
Have you done a podcast before?
I have.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I've had quite a few ladies lately going, oh, this was my first experience.
Okay. No, most of the time it has been talking more about the marketing and content side of things. So this iteration of me is a little less public knowledge.
Until today.
Until today. Drum roll. Yes.
So I am popping a cherry a little bit. How cool is that?
I know. It's very cool. It's very cool. That feels very good off the back of what feels way more aligned and way more intuitive and inspired and non-efforting, if there is such a word.
I believe that it needs to be a word. And I think one of the things I'm really enjoying about this part of my journey is the awareness that language has not caught up with consciousness. And so we get to create new words for the new consciousness that we are vibrating on, and then allowing others to have the experience, not necessarily by the defined words, but by the frequency and the feeling of the words that we are sharing. And so we are bypassing a lot of the logical mind that has so many people stuck in fear, and allowing them to feel what it is that we want to convey instead, which touches the heart, which is just amazing. And of course, we just started the conversation randomly, and I'm going to leave this in, by the way, just in case you were wondering. And thank you so much for being on this call today with me. Our friendship has been an interesting one because we met on LinkedIn quite randomly. How long ago was it now?
3 years ago. 3 years ago, maybe.
I was known by a different name. I had a completely different brand.
Yes.
And we connected through the professional thread, but we quickly discovered that what is behind all of that, the human connection, was where we really connected.
Yes. And I think part of that was both knowing that we were on LinkedIn for a purpose, but not necessarily feeling it, seeing it as the tool, grudgingly in some respects. And that true joy lies elsewhere.
In the connection, right? Yes. For me, it's always been about the connection. And I have particularly enjoyed watching your evolution, your transformation.
Thank you.
From the very controlled, put together woman with the red lipstick and everything was just done right, to this gorgeous wild free woman that I am seeing
rocks up in a Beatles tank top. Yes.
Apologetically. Hallelujah.
Exactly.
Is all I'm going to say.
no, it feels good. It feels good. And yes, feels good to not be chained to mass email campaigns and, networking breakfasts and that barrage of efforting, exactly as I was saying before. Trying to manufacture something that needs not just persuasion, but almost coercion to make things happen. And that just sucks so much energy. Doesn't give you energy, it sucks energy. So, yeah.
It is that shift in releasing wanting to be, or that feeling of having to be a high achiever, having to be a hero, having to prove our worth, having to prove our worthiness of our desires, and becoming the woman who receives, becoming the woman who allows, becoming the woman who leans back and allows the universe to meet her where she's at, instead of feeling like she has to chase the accolades, has to chase the rewards, have to chase the achievement, the applause of everybody else, which is still very much the world we are living in. And so in taking a stance of being an unapologetic woman, what I have found is, once again, I don't belong anywhere, and I'm relishing the wildness and the freedom that comes with that.
Mm-hmm. It's a very seductive environment, the corporate world. It's like being rocked to sleep like a baby. And you drop into a space where when you wake up you just think, well, must be where I should be. And it took me a little while to question that, I think, because it starts to feel safe and familiar. And it starts to feel that if you rock the boat too much, you're going to fall out. Or get kicked out, perhaps, is more frightening than falling out. And I wondered about having two arms of my world coexisting in a public way. Would people just fall away when they thought it wasn't purely about marketing? But I think the beautiful evolution, as you were describing it, has been most powerful where the people that I started to gravitate towards and gravitate away from, the ones that I was going more towards, have followed me through the evolution, and just as interested in what I do holistically around wellness as they are about the LinkedIn side of things. So, yeah.
I'd like to maybe just throw in a little adjustment for us, because I hear us talking about the corporate world so often. And I'm kind of wondering, is it the corporate world or is it the industrial world? Because I've been an entrepreneur for a long time. I've been out of corporate for a long time, but I still had the same mindset. I still had the same consciousness. And I'm kind of wondering, is corporate world still the phrase to use? Or is it an understanding that it's an industrial world that is the world of the high achiever? Because I feel like if we keep saying corporate world, there's a lot of people who are not being triggered, who are not being woken up out of the slumber of achievement, because they say, oh, but I'm not in corporate. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm free of that.
It does warrant a broader definition, definitely. And corporate has a few different interpretations, I think. For me, it is distinct from being I don't even know how to describe it. It's more of a feeling. It's more of a feeling of, this is how I operate, and this is who I want to operate with, and the environment I want to operate in, rather than give me an environment I can fit into. So, Yeah, and part of that has to come with, yes, there is an industrial element, but I see that just as frequently in well-being circles as I do in, let's call them white collar or professional services and those environments of offices and high heels and suits. So it's, yeah, I don't think you step out of it just because you don't work in an office or a shop. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's a mindset.
Exactly. It is a mindset. So, my friend, what does it mean to you to be an unapologetic woman?
It means being easeful. It means that you can turn up to a yoga class either as the student or as the teacher and not unapologetically fall out of a pose or go in the wrong direction to the rest of the class, or breathe out when they say breathe in, and be more inclined to laugh about it than to beat yourself up about it. You know, that is ease, and that for me feels totally unapologetic.
Oh, so what I'm hearing is at ease with self.
Yes. Yeah. No knots in your tummy. No breathing from the top half of your chest because you're hyperventilating on every word that you utter, and you're not in anticipation of somebody judging you. You just roll.
That is a beautiful definition. I really love that. Every woman I've spoken to, including myself, have experienced this as a continuous journey. It has been years of not one dark night of the soul, a lot of nights and a lot of days. Yes. But there's always been pivotal moments in our lives where it's almost as though we made a decision to take a stand for ourselves. It was a decision to evolve, a decision to grow, and a decision to reclaim who we are. Have you experienced it like that? Are you experiencing it like that, as that consistent, continuous, ongoing evolution? And if so, what are some of the moments that you can maybe share with our listeners of this is where you made some decisions regarding yourself?
It's definitely been an evolution, but I would say there have been key intersections along the way. And some of them have felt like, if you can picture a water feature that has a half pipe and the water flows down, and when it gets to the end, it drops and lands in the next thing. Some of those moments have felt very much like that, being tipped into the next layer of self, or into the next layer of this lifetime, this incarnation. There have been key moments definitely around personal relationships, family ones, romantic ones, professional ones. I think they are more transformative than anything else you can experience in life. And you move through them and come out the other side realizing that actually that was a necessary rub in some cases to make you drop into that next layer, to flow into that next layer. And certainly on the family side of things, I've had to walk away from family members that, after a lifetime of feeling that knot in your stomach around, I can't tell you what I really think because there is no receptivity, or I can't ever meet your expectations because you want me to be more like you and less like me. And it creates so much friction that it doesn't produce a pearl, it produces an empty shell of a person. And in those moments, I've had to walk away and say, for my own peace and subsequent physical health, no more. You don't earn the right to treat me like garbage because I'm blood related. I wouldn't tolerate it from a friend, a colleague, a person on the street. So what gives you the right as my blood to behave that way and think? You just keep swallowing it and asking for more, or forgiving indefinitely. And yeah, it gives you it stokes that inner fire of personal strength, I think, to finally have that realization and say no more, but do it with easefulness
and with love.
And with love.
And I love the conversation around family dynamics, because I think it's one of those where we are so conditioned in different cultures about what it means and how binding it is. And it's the one that I've probably received the most pushback on and gotten into the most trouble with, is my outspokenness about the fact that biology does not equate any rights to abuse. It does not equate to any rights to us having to tolerate disrespect because of the hierarchy that we were born into, or because of the biological status that people are given in our lives. And for me, even as a mother, and this has served me so greatly, I made the decision a long time ago that I have to earn the right to be in my children's lives. And if I want them to be respecting of me, I have to earn that. They don't have to give that. And that was huge for me in my relationship with my boys. And today I'm so grateful of it, because we have the best relationships. And it came from me being born into a family with a biological father who gave me only abuse, no love, no respect, no nothing. And I have nothing against him. I have forgiven him, but he's no longer part of my life. Like, he stopped being part of my life a long time ago.
Mm.
And I did it from a space of love. I did it from a space of, because I love myself, I can love you. And because I love you, I am not going to interact with you because it's only creating pain in you, which you are then inflicting on me. And so it's interesting for me how more and more women are starting to realize that love does not mean staying. Love means when we connect to true love for ourselves, we connect to the frequency of love, and therefore we remove ourselves from the spaces where there is only continuous friction, because the frequencies are just not aligned. And it's okay. It doesn't mean we don't love the person on a soul level, but let's just be honest, some people still show up as dicks, and we don't have to tolerate that or be that. So.
And I think we've been sometimes led to believe that we have to keep reframing it and make it somehow tolerable, palatable, acceptable. Oh, they must, they must be in so much pain. Yeah, their behavior indicates that they must be in so much pain.
And it's their responsibility to heal themselves. It's not our responsibility, especially as women. I feel women have this warped sense of we have to self-sacrifice to help other people. We have to self-sacrifice and self-abandon to make other people feel better in our presence, or to feel better. Whereas, and that's why I shifted to self-leadership. It's like, no, I am responsible for my personal well-being and happiness, and so are you. Like, I do not take responsibility for other people's happiness, and I do not put that responsibility on anybody else anymore. It's full self-ownership, self-leadership. You also spoke about romantic relationships, and we just had Valentine's Day this week, and it was interesting for me because I had my best Valentine's Day ever. And as I was journaling in the morning, I was so deeply grateful for every romantic relationship I'd had before this one, which for the most part weren't fantastical, They were my greatest teachers in this lifetime. And I thought to myself, and you all played a role in me getting super clear of the type of relationship that I desire, that has my cup overflowing, and that had me have the best Valentine's of my life at the age of 50. How freaking awesome is that? What has your experience been in romance as you started taking ownership of yourself in the beautiful woman that you have become, compared to the very put together, very
the challenge with being very put together is that you expect everybody else to be very, very put together as well, and that somehow them not being very put together is a sign of lack of respect for, not for themselves, but for you. Which always means you start on the back foot. It's not a good place to be. Romantically, in this current place, I spent, I won't say a long time, but a very intensive time bridging from what I was in a previous relationship to what I am now in the current relationship. And it was very much a case of take it back to ground zero, like burn it all down and allow it to sit there smoldering a little bit, and don't wait for new shoots to come up. Just go, okay, I'm going to plant something new and I need to design it from scratch. I need to think about how it feels, how it looks, where it's going to go, how long it's going to last, all of those kinds of things, and paint a super mega vivid picture of that in my mind and in language. No, I'm not a big journaler, but I do believe very much in language as a tool for shifting your vibration and for adding another dimension to your thoughts. You obviously have an internal voice, but to put that out there with volume. And I would go on a rant until I ran out of things to say about all the good things that were part of this incoming relationship, part of this person, part of me as a component of that relationship, until it became so vivid that it was as if it was already there in front of me. And it took very little time for that person to appear. And like magic, it was seeing all those things that I had ranted about and looking at him and thinking, tick, 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 tick. You nailed it. Quite effortlessly. And I had fun along the way.
So much power in focusing on the positive, though, right? Because when you say the word rant, we kind of feel or instinctively go into, oh my God, this must have been a rant about what's wrong and stuff. And what I went through a very similar process as you. Mine was slightly different. I figured out what was the best things I appreciated of the best men I had ever met in my life. And these included my grandfather, some of my best clients that I've worked with. And I literally just dove into, what did I love about this man? What was his absolute best qualities? And like you, without looking for anybody, this man appeared. And I sat one day and I was like, holy shit. Like, he is the culmination of all the best things that I appreciated in men. And I think that is something that we're not taught. Not a lot of people talk about this. People are very focused on, what do you not want? What is the negative? What is wrong? What's the problem? Instead of really connecting to the energy of what's right. What's the desire? What's beautiful? What's worked? What's treasured? And focusing the energy on that. that's where the effortlessness comes in.
Mm.
It's not a push, it's a allow.
Mm. It's an allow, and it's letting it trickle into some of the more mundane aspects as well. I found it was bringing into that rant elements of everyday routine, that we have just as much fun cleaning the house as we do cooking or dancing or whatever. And that again has flowed through precisely, and it's been so impactful and so precise that it has spurred me to keep going back to that premise as a touchstone years down the track. Now we're 2 years into knowing one another, going back to little snippets of that rant and just going, thank you for what is already here, and what is building and what is growing and everything else. Thank you for being here. And it's not in anticipation, it's I have it now, and I'm showing appreciation every day for it.
I love that. Without going into any of the details, we don't have to, but I know that you've had some health challenges along the way, which nudged you into a new way of being, a new way of choosing, and finding even your new career path in wellness. Do you want to speak a little bit about what that journey has been like for you personally, and how do you feel now about it as you look back? Because while we're in it, things can feel pretty shitty and tough and just horrible. And then when we're on the other side, it's like oh my God, that was all good. Like that all brought me to this. And I sometimes feel we as women especially need to hear that, because a lot of women are in the middle of it right now and kind of feeling, what have I done wrong that this is happening in my life right now?
Well, I know what I did wrong. And it comes back to that construct of control. It comes back to the perfectly formed and presented version, which eliminated the aspects of myself that were not convenient, that were not socially desirable, that were somehow indicative of imperfection, weakness, aging, a myriad of things. And to the point where the feminine half of my system just went, what? We gave you the feather, we gave you the brick, now you get the truck. Yeah, so wake up. Like, we're going to floor you physically until you cannot ignore us any longer. And after the proverbial dust had settled around the physical aspect of it, the opportunity then to sit with the feminine, have that conversation with her and say, I hear you. I'm not going to ignore you any longer. And whatever needs to come through is whatever needs to come through. So if that is emotion, if that is more physical manifestations and symptoms, so be it. But I'm going to be as easeful as I can and hold that space for you to be your full and wonderful self. And things start to get softer and easier from that point, to the point where symptoms just evaporate. And I had the support of this beautiful man that just said, your body's doing what it needs to do. Allow it to do what it needs to do. Don't force it to suck it all back up. So I knew that I had a safe space to land in those moments where I felt wretched, or when the physical symptoms were just so in my face that I wanted to have a little nap or find some other way to just block it out. And yeah, it just gives you a wake-up call. It gives you a wake-up call, not because I was about to die, but because that aspect of me had just been squashed down or shaped into what other people thought the feminine should be in me. The subservient, the polite, the, always flattering and nice to be around and inoffensive and appropriate and professional and bloody, bloody, blah.
And I almost want to reframe that, because I know a lot of women is now listening to this and kind of going, oh my God, that's what I'm doing wrong as well. And it's not that we did anything wrong. It's that we tried so bloody hard to do everything right. And I came to the understanding through my suicidal depression and various health challenges along the way as well. All of it comes down to one thing. And it's a repression of who we really are. And the moment that we reclaim ourselves unapologetically and surrender into ourselves, health comes streaming back in. Because health and thrive is our true frequency, our true vibration. And everything else is just a disallowance of who we really are, and therefore a moving away from who we really are. And a lot of women at the moment are being called back to self. That's why so many women are going through, oh my God, everything from trauma to anxiety, depression, physical ailments. It's just us being nudged back, and it's not from a vindictive universe that's slapping us in the face and go, wake up now. It is just that the further away we move from ourselves, because we try so bloody hard to be all the things we've been told to be a good woman, instead of looking at Mother Nature and go, Mother Nature, a bit crazy and unpredictable, right? I woke up to a storm this morning, and the sun was shining 5 minutes ago, and now the clouds are rolling in again. Like, she is all, with an acceptance of all. And we as women get to give ourselves permission again in these days to be our beautiful, radiant, unpredictable, crazy ass, full expression self, and allowing the health then to come through us. Yes. But I also found I had to be kind to myself in the allowing of it, because as an achiever, I would force it. Like, oh my God, I need to get healthy quickly. I need to bounce back. I have shit to get done, man. I don't have time for downtime. Whereas the feminine goes, no. There's a time to rest. There's a time to regroup. There's a time to build up again before there's a time to create. Did you have that experience?
Definitely. And it came in a way that very clearly pointed out to me where I was paying lip service to wellness. I think my son calls me a hippie, but I've loved things that are around holistics, everything from crystals to yoga to aromatherapy to chanting, all of these aspects since I was a teenager. And I never really saw it as something that I could make my professional life as well. It felt like a hobby. So when I decided to bite the bullet a few years ago and do the yoga teacher training, again, it felt like I've done lots of courses, I've done lots of education and self-development and all of those kinds of things. And yes, this is going to be forging a new path. This is the next iteration of me. It's going to be good on multiple levels. And it was in the midst of that 200 hours that my body said, stop. And that was everything, when everything exploded, and I ended up in hospital in another state, dealing with out of control symptoms, having just woken up that morning, and it all was like the floods in Sydney, the floods in New Zealand, just the feminine going, this is not really, you are not really connecting to this. You are going through the motions, saying this is what you want because you don't like what's over here, but you haven't really connected with what you're moving towards enough, and you haven't embodied it. So how about we take you offline temporarily and see if you're really serious about it, or whether it's just another course to add to your list. And it meant then, that I was recovering. I needed to come back home again. I needed to sit my assessments and exams back home rather than surrounded by my fellow students. So it felt like a very abrupt, yet being yanked out of the system in order to learn the lesson, and then to have to go through the process of dealing with the health issues once I got home, and specialists, and do I need surgery, and all of these kinds of things. So there was a whole lot of shakedown for a couple of months.
Thank you for sharing that. And I want to, and respectfully to everybody, right? This is not criticizing, this is an observation and also an experience of self. We talk about the wellness industry, and yet when I was deepest in it, I was at my unhealthiest. You talk about being pulled out of the system, and I feel like it's important for people to start feeling the difference about what true wellness is and what the system prescribes to us as what wellness looks like and what wellness sounds like, and all the motivation and the six-pack and the this and the that. And even yoga, I find a lot of people think of yoga as the physical exercise that you do so that you can do crow stand and so that you can have a hot body and wear lycra every day, instead of understanding that yoga is a philosophy of life, a philosophy of being, a philosophy of childlike wonder in this human body, having this experience. And that is wellness. When you get out of the ego of what you look like,
yes,
what you sound like, and what you're told to be like, again, so it's that awareness of there's embodying of wellness, and like you say, giving lip service to wellness. And that is such a critical distinction to make, because I feel like the wellness industry puts so much pressure on us to look a certain way, to sound a certain way, to eat a certain way, to whatever. And I'm the first one to say, when I was at my fittest, I was at my unhealthiest.
Yep. Yeah. It's, I don't know. It just going through the process post exams and so on. I just felt like I had been given the most beautiful re-initiation. Yes. And it was for someone who has spent a career in words, I'm struggling to find the words to describe it, but it felt like a homecoming in some way, that I had slowed down, that I had a little bit further to go in seeing where my body needed to take me, and that I now had this scaffolding, this beautiful scaffolding provided by yoga philosophy, and the most spectacular yoga mentor I could have ever asked for. The universe just handed me a woman who owned her own flaws and her rocky beginning, and her level of humility and discipline and rawness and wholeheartedness just kind of scooped me up in that moment, even after I came back home again. And she was like, I've got you. Yeah, whatever needs to happen will happen, but you will go through it and you will come out the other side with your qualifications. And if that's what you want to do, good. But, just stay in touch with yourself. And if you allow yoga to give you guidance, it'll give it to you in spades. And she couldn't have been more accurate. It taught me to sit with the non-physical aspects of it even more deeply than the course allowed for, and inspired a love of aspects that I didn't know were going to really lure me in, around the mythology, around the mantra, aspects that in retrospect make perfect sense to me that they appealed. But no, I wanted to be there to learn the asana. I wanted to know how to teach breathing. I wanted to know how to lead a meditation, all the while ignoring the bigger picture. So it definitely came out as something more than simply another qualification. Certainly didn't make me turn vegan. I can put that. I'm not sure that will ever happen.
Well, I don't think that all yogis are vegan. I think
no, but it is part of that
as well.
Yeah. Part of that narrow perspective, along with the headstands and the lycra, that you must be vegan and environmentalist and many other labels. And no.
You get to wear your Beatles t-shirt, baby.
Exactly.
What do you take an unapologetic stand for in the world today?
I didn't expect it to come into this area, and it's landed in my lap. The people have landed in my lap. I have been fortunate not to have experienced it, but domestic abuse has just, as I said, the people that have landed in my life over the last year or so, with this commonality of experience, has created a very unapologetic will in me to work in whatever way I can to help these people express, to help them heal, to simply pull it out of their system, and to reclaim the pieces of themselves that have become fragmented and scattered along the path of their current life or past lives, and reintegrate those aspects of self, of their soul essence, of whatever has splintered off, so that I leave them with a little more of themselves intact or reinstated. And I don't even know exactly what that looks like at the moment. But, and I don't feel like I need to have a rant about it or, write articles about it and say this is not right. That's out there. What I need to do is take the opportunity of the people who are being presented before me for a very specific reason and work with them one by one, and trust in the momentum that creates and the understanding that creates, and know that I'm working within their system. I'm working back up their family line. I'm positioning them to send down their family line a new way of being, and a more healed and whole self that future generations can inherit, rather than continuing to pass the pieces down the line. So
I find it very sad how normalized domestic abuse really has become. Not just physical abuse, but emotional and mental abuse goes on in so many households. And a lot of it, I think, is cultural in how we are raised, of what happens behind closed doors and what stays behind closed doors. And I know for me, one of the turning points in my life was identifying all the patterns that I chose to end with me. And abuse was one of those patterns. And just saying, no, this will not go over to my children and my children's children. This pattern ends with me. And I know what it takes for anybody who is listening to make that decision. And I also know that in that decision, the universe delivers all the support that we need to carry it out.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's been an amazing conversation, my friend. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
The ladies who are listening, how do they connect with you? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
The best way is just old-fashioned methods, phone and email. I think I could send you to social media pages and things like that, but I would much rather somebody just, have the privacy and confidentiality of a text or a phone call or an email to say, hey, here's what I think and what are your thoughts.
And we'll put those down in the description. So anybody who is listening that has felt drawn to any part of this conversation with Megan and who just kind of resonated with any part of this, I highly recommend you reach out. You're the real deal, my friends. It has been a privilege to observe your transformation. You have been the butterfly that has come out of the cocoon. And you have been beautiful and graceful throughout the process. I just want to comment on that. Never once, and I got the opportunity to see you while you were going through the toughest part. Even in that, there was no bitterness, there was no blaming, there was no resentment. There was only grace as a woman in the allowance of the transformation, even though it was so painful. And I really want to honor you for that. And thank you for being an example of what grace looks like in a woman going through her evolution.
Thank you. Thank you.
For all the ladies who have joined us today, as always, we thank you for your time and we thank you for joining us in the conversation. I can't recommend enough that you connect with this woman. She's a beautiful person, beautiful woman, beautiful soul. Her love is real. She's the real deal. And we look forward to another amazing conversation next week. So until then, don't forget, we get to live our legacies, unleashed, unlimited, and unapologetic. Have an amazing day further. Cheers. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review. To catch all the latest from me, Alnaj, you can follow me on Instagram at The Unapologetic Woman and connect with me on LinkedIn at al-naj. And if you're interested in experiencing the Unapologetic Woman Initiative, book in for our next open meeting. The link is in the description. Thanks again, and I'll see you next week.